ultimate outlet for the Northwest. Kick off the holiday season at our first annual tree lighting ceremony, Saturday, November 20th at 6 p.m.
Doubly more, plus Mission Impossible 2 on Entertainment Tonight.
The unusual tragedy in Texas. A bonfire tradition turns into a death trap as tons of logs collapse on dozens of college students. The search for bodies and explanations goes on. The strongest hurricane ever to hit this late in the season rampages on in the Caribbean. And why doesn't the label tell you if your food has been genetically altered? The FDA holds a hearing and gets an earful.
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather reporting tonight from Philadelphia.
Good evening. One of the nation's biggest and best college campuses is suddenly in a state of mourning tonight. At Texas A&M, at least 9 students were killed early today when tons of logs for a traditional pyramid bonfire crashed to the ground. 28 more students were injured, some critically. On the campus in College Station, the mood was transformed in an instant, from football pep rally frenzy to shocked disbelief. CBS's Maureen Maher is there.
A dramatic rescue as tragedy and tradition collided at Texas A&M University in the middle of the night. For hours, workers struggled to pull apart a towering pile of logs that had collapsed with some 70 students hanging on.
Just 1 second, we were up having a good time and hoopla and having fun, and the next second it was just over. It was just, we were on the ground.
The students were building an enormous bonfire, a 90-year-old ritual that marks the school's biggest pep rally before the annual football game against the University of Texas. Using highly sensitive listening devices, students buried in the debris were located. Some were already dead. More than 24 were injured, several critically. The project is solely run by the kids. The same engineering system, which uses 7,000 logs wired in groups of 4, has been used without serious injury for 53 years. But it also significantly hampered the rescue efforts.
It's like pickup sticks. These logs are all intertwined. We can work on one side of an area, but once these logs become interlaced, we have to work from a different angle.
As crews picked apart each layer, hundreds of students pitched in with power. Others did what they could with prayer. These are not the first tears shed here this semester. 5 students were killed in a skydiving accident in September, and another died last month when a truck swerved off a road. But this is the worst disaster the school has ever seen.
It's a great tragedy. Everybody is brokenhearted about what has happened.
Yet Aggies defend the bonfire custom.
This is a tragedy that no one saw coming, that no one could have prevented. It's something that's never happened before, and it came out of the blue.
The death toll stands at 9, and officials believe that all the students have been accounted for, including 2 who remain trapped inside. However, their conditions are not known at this time. The Aggie tradition calls for everything to be done in the name of spirit, unity, and safety. Each of the students involved in the project was required to take a safety course, but neither the students nor the officials have any idea what happened here. Dan?
Support and sympathy for Texas A&M is coming from arch-rival University of Texas at Austin. Proceeds from the sale of T-shirts for the big game will now go to a memorial fund for the dead students. A planned pep rally in Austin will now be a candlelight vigil. In Jasper, Texas, a verdict and quick sentencing today for Sean Berry, the 3rd and last white man to be tried for the dragging death of James Byrd Jr. Berry was convicted of capital murder, but unlike his 2 co-defendants, Berry will not be going to death row. CBS News correspondent Bob McNamara is in Jasper.
Morning. James Byrd's family had a feeling.
That is a good day.
And if Sean Berry had a fear, his face did not betray him.
Has the jury reached this verdict?
Locking hands with his fiancée, Berry heard a verdict this case has echoed twice before.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of the offense of capital murder as alleged in the indictment.
Though Berry's face stayed frozen, friends and family, his girlfriend had to be consoled. His father was conciliatory.
This hate has to stop. It has to stop. This is ridiculous. I think the sheets ought to be on the beds where they belong.
Still, the sense of relief felt by James Byrd's family didn't temper a call for the ultimate punishment.
I say that there were 3 people involved in the vicious, savage, merciless murder of my brother, James Berry Jr., and they all should get equal punishment.
Sean Berry, based on the jury's verdict.
Berry's defense was that, paralyzed by fear, he only helplessly watched as James Byrd Jr. was beaten and dragged to death by white supremacists Russell Brewer and Bill King, who've already been sentenced to die.
Is there anything that you want to say before I pass that sentence on you?
Late today, perhaps in a jury show of mercy, Sean Berry was sentenced.
It's the order of this court that you're hereby sentenced to life imprisonment.
A sentence of life makes him eligible for parole after 40 years. In Jasper now, there is a sense the system has worked. And after more than a year and a half, the last chapter of a town's saddest saga has hopefully been written. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Jasper, Texas.
Late, large, once-in-a-century Hurricane Lenny, tracking unusually west to east in the Caribbean, was barely moving at all today. This thing stalled over St. Martin with 120-mile-an-hour winds still and more torrential rains. It's now expected to just sit there and sort of hover well into tomorrow. Several islands have taken heavy hits, some of the worst of it on American St. Croix. CBS's Jim Axelrod is in the thick of it on our weather watch.
The U.S. Virgin Islands were looking right when Hurricane Lenny sucker punched them from the left. Tonight, paradise has a black eye.
The weather here is beautiful 363 days out of the year. The other 2, it tries to kill you.
Lenny slammed into St. Croix overnight with 150-mile-an-hour winds, ripping off roofs, knocking out windows, smashing piers, and sinking a fleet of boats in Christiansted Harbor.
You see the mast sticking out right here. It's
straight ahead there.
Straight ahead. The sails are shredded on board the mast. It was a 35-foot boat. Somebody lived aboard. Now, this morning, he doesn't have a home.
No deaths have been reported, but an island full of hurricane-hardened veterans are in shock. It wasn't just Lenny's west-to-east path that surprised them. It was the first November hurricane anyone remembers here. They thought they were done for the year. For someone who's never been through a hurricane before, can you describe to them what it's like?
It's like you asking me how does it feel to get shocked. Until you get shocked, you'll never experience it.
The backdoor track of left-hand Lenny was more than just a novelty for the people of St. Croix. It turned a law of nature on its side. One tested generation after generation and made the destruction here even worse.
See, our weather always usually comes from the east, out of the east, and a certain way. And so things are kind of built to face into the weather. So here somebody comes from behind us, you know, oh, man.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming.
Darn it.
I hate it when that happens.
How'd that fall down? It came from the wrong direction.
There's no power and no water here tonight, and not a lot of confidence either that they're completely through with Lenny, stalled ominously and indecisively to the northeast.
It's not over. When it's over, we'll have a perfect calm. We're still having weather that is going in different directions.
Until the weather turns beautiful again in St. Croix, many here will stay worried that Lenny's coming back to throw another punch. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, St. Croix.
Still to come on the CBS Evening News, second thoughts about the scenario aboard Egypt 990. Consumers protest over genetically modified mystery foods. And the offbeat attractions of historic Philadelphia, a good-natured look at a good-natured city.
Enterprise Rent-A-Car. When you call us, we don't just pick up the phone. We pick you up.
Right here.
This is great.
Thank you.
Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
Right now at LensCrafters, you can get a complete pair of great-looking glasses for only $99 in your choice of hundreds of the latest styles.
The LensCrafters $99 complete pair sale.
Only $99. You can't afford to miss an offer like this.
Hurry. Offer ends November 20th.
All right, kid. Here we go. 10-9. What do you got? What do you got? What? Yeah. All right, come on, come on.
What would you do if someone you loved had a heart attack?
Yeah.
Did you know it's now been proven that the same Bayer aspirin you have in your bag for muscle aches may actually help stop you from dying if you take it during a heart attack?
Downtown. Lucky shot.
Can your pain reliever do that? Talk to your doctor now.
Next time I'll go easier on you.
Bayer, powerful pain relief and so much more.
Well, all right. Tailor-made Energel ball. Explosive distance, soft feel. I found them online and at 25 retail stores.
StoreRunner.com has shopping experts in every conceivable field, like Mark Anderson in sporting goods.
Ooh, Dunlop double titanium ball and a Callaway Hawkeye titanium driver. Am I right?
StoreRunner.com. Log on, let's shop.
In the case of Egypt Air 990 tonight, investigators are rolling back. They now say that they are unsure of the accuracy of widely reported transcripts of cockpit comments supposedly uttered by an Egyptian co-pilot who has been under suspicion in the crash. CBS's Jim Stewart is on the case.
It was a day for explanations and re-examination in the case of Egypt Air Flight 990. Egyptian officials traveled from office to office in Washington seeking explanations, while investigators appear to be having second thoughts on what was said in the doomed aircraft's cockpit. Earlier, investigators thought relief co-pilot Gamil al-Batouti had said in Arabic, "I made my decision now. I put my faith in God's hands," before putting the plane into a steep dive. Now, there is some question as to whether the first and most suspicious phrase, "I made my decision now," is actually on the tape, or was somehow mistakenly included in rough notes circulated among government officials. The mix-up, if it is that, would not deter U.S. agents from believing that Batouti acted alone to bring the plane down, but it does complicate explaining to the Egyptians why Americans are so eager to treat the case as a criminal matter.
It becomes complicated in that this is not simply an American investigation, and we have to work with our Egyptian partners.
Meanwhile, Egyptian officials today reminded their American colleagues that airplane crash investigations often start down the wrong path.
I don't think it is useful to either provide information piecemeal, information which may not be accurate, and I don't think it's useful to analyze it until we see the whole picture.
Earlier this week, it appeared almost certain that this case would be turned over to the FBI. And while that's still a possibility, one solution to the continuing debate over interpretations might be to continue this investigation in the short term as a joint affair between both the United States and Egypt. Jim Stewart, CBS News, Washington.
An American Airlines Boeing 767 bound from San Diego to New York had to make an emergency landing today in Palm Springs, California. There was no damage visible outside the jet, but there was plenty of fear inside. 6 of the 112 people on board suffered minor injuries when the aircraft suddenly lost cabin pressure at 31,000 feet. Up next on the CBS Evening News, Boris Yeltsin growls and stalks home. Russia's retreat from Istanbul.
As you might expect, Teller and I don't see eye to eye on investing. I like to avoid risk. Teller's a little more daring. We do, however, share the same new way to trade online.
Introducing Power Street by Fidelity, the first site with trading tools customized by Lycos to fit your unique way of doing things.
Look, the market's up, or in your case, down.
Power Street Online Trading. To find out how you could win free trades for life, visit Fidelity.com.
You are in the fight of your life. Just you against your smoking addiction, one-on-one. Trouble is, it's not a fair fight, and few people win it. But you can give yourself a fighting chance to win with Zyban. Zyban doesn't work for everyone. Zyban is part of a comprehensive program from your doctor to help you stop smoking. It's different from nicotine replacements. Zyban is the only prescription medicine that's nicotine-free, so you don't have to stop smoking all at once. As Zyban reduces your cravings, you feel like smoking less and less until you're ready to stop completely because you're ready to win. You should know there is a risk of seizure associated with Zyban. To reduce the risk, don't take Zyban if you have or have had a seizure or eating disorder, or if you take Wellbutrin. Don't take Zyban if you use an MAO inhibitor. Side effects may include dry mouth and difficulty sleeping. Ask your doctor if Zyban is right for you, because it can help you quit smoking by making it a fight you can win. Zyban, you don't have to quit all at once.
2 large double cheese.
It's about time. I'm starving.
Whoa, that can't be cable.
It's DirecTV. You get all your favorite cable channels.
Kung Pao.
And it's the only service that gives you access to every pro and college sports subscription.
Donuts.
Plus now, you get 2 free months of 32 premium movie channels, including 7 HBO, 4 Stars, and 5 Showtime channels with no long-term commitments. DirecTV. What are you looking at? Okay, wait the remote.
President Clinton and the United States scored a victory today in a big power contest over control of the world's oil supply. 3 nations have agreed to build an oil pipeline from the Caspian Sea to international markets without going through Iran or Russia. With President Clinton as witness, Turkey, the country of Georgia, and Azerbaijan closed the deal today at the European Security Summit in Istanbul. The pipeline will link the rich Caspian oil fields of Azerbaijan in Central Asia to a Turkish port on the Mediterranean Sea. This pipeline agreement is a blow to Moscow, which sees it as the U.S. encroaching on its former empire in Asia. But that wasn't the only frustration for Russia at the Istanbul summit today. Boris Yeltsin left the meeting early, angered by criticism of Russia's civil war in Chechnya. CBS News White House correspondent John Roberts reports.
It was the political equivalent of bear baiting at the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Leader after leader denounced Boris Yeltsin's actions in Chechnya.
War is no way to eliminate terrorism.
The European Union condemns the excessive use of force in Chechnya.
Inflict an indiscriminate violence and terror on innocent civilians.
Under withering criticism and calls for Yeltsin to put an end to bombing civilians, the Russian bear roared.
You have no right to criticize Russia for Chechnya.
The OSCE is seeking to isolate Yeltsin for what it calls the indiscriminate use of force in Chechnya, military action that has killed hundreds of civilians and created a refugee crisis on the Chechen borders. President Clinton made the point that internal conflicts can be international matters, reminding Yeltsin of his act of defiance during the 1991 coup attempt in Russia.
And you were standing there on that tank, said to those people, you can do this, but you'll have to kill me first. If they had put you in jail instead of electing you president, I would hope that every leader of every country around this table would have stood up for you and for freedom in Russia.
Before Yeltsin left for home, he did agree to a new OSCE charter that states internal conflicts like Chechnya and Kosovo, conflicts that threaten regional stability, are everybody's business. Despite the near united front at the OSCE, Russia is not likely to cut back on its use of force in Chechnya. Boris Yeltsin is committed to put an end to what he calls the cancer of terrorism before it spreads any further. A commitment that will mean more suffering for civilians caught in the crossfire. John Roberts, CBS News, Istanbul.
Next up on the CBS Evening News, you may be eating genetically altered food and not even know it.
Give me your hottest, give me your greasiest, give me your best shot.
Dessert? Something with berries, perhaps?
Berries? I got heartburn.
I'm talking berry-flavored Tums, big guy.
When heartburn's got you, Tums works fast. And along with calcium, you get strawberry, raspberry, and mixed berry flavors.
Berry Tums. I like that.
I went on chemo at the time my oldest daughter was getting married. We had planned everything. The fabric, the design, the whole gown. But when it was time to sew the dress, the chemo, it makes you weak. My whole life I've made clothes for other people, but for my own daughter's wedding, I was too tired to make the dress.
Are you a chemotherapy patient? Ask your doctor about Procrit. Procrit is a natural way to regain red blood cells lost during chemotherapy, and more red blood cells can mean more strength. Procrit is safe and effective. In studies, only diarrhea and edema occurred more often with Procrit than placebo. Procrit is for patients with non-myeloid cancers. Call now and learn how Procrit can help you get back the strength you need. Your strength for living.
In life, you take the bitter with the sweet. But I plan to end up with more sweet.
My driving test kind of got off to a bad start.
On calls like this,
You want to talk a while. That's why it's always a good idea to dial 10-10-321.
Well, I thought I was in first.
With 10-10-321, you save 50% on calls over 10 minutes. Now, that's just 8 cents a minute, day or night.
I was supposed to turn on the blinker.
And no monthly fees. And at 50% off, you can go on and on and on.
So finally, I pull out of the parking space.
Talk as long as you want with 10-10-321.
On the CBS Health Watch, there's new research out tonight about a revolutionary way to fight chronic pain. Here's how it actually works in laboratory rats. There in yellow is a tiny biochemical smart bomb that was directed to a specific nerve cell site in the spinal cord. Shown in red, other nerve cells are totally unaffected. Result, no chronic pain. The body still feels normal pain and no mind-numbing side effects. More animal tests are needed before this is tried in humans. In tonight's Eye on America, the second of 2 reports on what's in the food you eat but isn't on the label. As CBS's Wyatt Andrews reports, federal health officials opened their first hearings today on genetically altered food and why consumers don't know it when they buy it.
The protesters say we're eating Frankenstein foods, foods that kill the monarch butterfly, foods they say turn corn into poison.
I don't want to be a guinea pig, and I'm going to avoid this stuff.
To answer that very fear, the Food and Drug Administration today held its first ever public hearing on genetically modified foods, and there are a lot of them.
Soybean, flax, radicchio, squash, and tomato.
In fact, half this country's corn and soybean crop is being gene-spliced with bacteria, but who knew? There is no label required on the cornflakes or baby food made from gene-modified plants, and the safety studies are done by industry and not the government.
We're reviewing the whole of the policy.
FDA Commissioner Dr. Jane Haney says no question these foods are safe. That's why the government doesn't demand labeling, but just ask shoppers if they want labels.
It will give me more information. I will be aware of what I'm eating.
It's that consumer demand that's making the FDA reconsider its policy.
I think that a label may be a vehicle, and that's one of the questions we want to explore.
Most of the food industry is fighting labels hard. Grocery makers believe a genetic label would brand safe foods as poison.
What we are opposed to or against are labels that could potentially misinform or mislead them.
By misinform, you mean frightened.
Yeah,
in this case, you mean frightened.
It could be, sure.
We don't want no GMOs, hey, hey!
Still, the industry has big problems. Congress is considering mandatory labeling, and the FDA is being sued by the Center for Food Safety in Washington to force a mandatory, not voluntary, approval process.
It is a private, backdoor, voluntary relationship between the producers of genetically engineered foods and the government. That's not acceptable.
For the last 5 years, the biotech industry and the FDA have sat back satisfied that these foods would be accepted. Now facing public distrust, the government is playing catch-up. In Chicago, I'm Wyatt Andrews for Eye on America.
Coming up next on the CBS Evening News from Philadelphia, off the beaten track in the city of the Liberty Bell and brotherly love.
Tonight, like never before, you can relax and not worry if your dentures are clean. Because you started the day with new Fix-It and Cleanser with ProGuard. This unique tablet and denture bath system not only gets dentures 4 times cleaner, it creates the ProGuard barrier, proven to protect against plaque and odor-causing bacteria all day, so that clean feeling lasts from morning till your goodnight kiss. New Fix-It with ProGuard. Start cleaner, stay cleaner.
Here's your regular internet homepage, and here's i1.com. It's free. You use it like Yahoo, Excite, or other search engines. Only i1.com gives away $10,000 every day, $1 million a month, and $10 million on tax day. Which one would you choose?
There's one guaranteed winner every day.
I'd definitely choose this one.
Would you consider telling your friends about this?
No.
Introducing i1.com. Why wouldn't you?
The other day, I'm driving down Broadway when that pastrami on rye catches up with me. Heartburn, big time. My passenger says, here, take a Zantac 75. I say, what are you, a doctor? And he says, yeah.
The medicine in Zantac 75 is the #1 doctor-prescribed acid reducer. It relieves even your toughest heartburn, controlling acid for up to 12 hours.
A real gentleman, that doctor.
Zantac 75 for tough heartburn. Doctors know.
Look, Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Ellie's renting again. And Enterprise picked her up again. She said Enterprise picks her up free. Free? Free. Now that makes renting easy.
Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
Right now at LensCrafters, you can get a complete pair of great-looking glasses for only $99 in your choice of hundreds of the latest styles.
The LensCrafters $99 complete pair sale.
Only $99. You can't afford to miss an offer like this.
Hurry. Offer ends November 20th.
The city of Philadelphia is world famous as the birthplace of American liberty, and people come from all over the world to see its historical and cultural treasures, which are many. You've heard of most of them, but not all of them, as CBS's Bill Geist shows you.
Cheesesteak, extra whiz, and fried onions to go.
Philadelphia is known for cheesesteaks, Rocky, and the Liberty Bell. But thousands come here to see places like Steve's Bug Off and his Museum of Bugs.
What is that?
This is a walking stick from New Guinea.
How'd it get here?
Walked.
The Insectarium, featuring exotics from around the world and close to home.
What is this?
This is our roach kitchen.
Very.
I had an apartment like that once. Yeah, used to hit him with a hammer.
Here you can see, feel, and even eat bugs, which may be carrying this interactive thing too far. These guys are definitely not interactive. They're on display at the Mutter Museum, filled with medical abnormalities for your viewing pleasure. A featured attraction is President Grover Cleveland's jaw tumor.
Does any people ever just run out of here screaming?
Not screaming.
But they do run out.
Possibly quietly revolted.
Turns out Philadelphia is a hotbed of these non-traditional museums.
Gets a little spooky, doesn't it?
Where visitors can tour the Eastern State Penitentiary.
By far our most famous alum was Al Capone. He had it filled with oriental rugs and paintings on the walls.
See a bucket full of teeth pulled by the legendary Painless Parker at the Dental Museum.
Wow. This is amazing.
Mary Popola is curator of a museum remembering opera tenor and Philadelphia hunk, Mario Lanza.
We started the Mario Lanza Institute back in 1962.
It's an institute.
Yes.
Complete with audio-visual presentation.
This is my very favorite one. Yes, it is.
Oh, he's singing.
Bravo, Mario.
Even at the traditional museums, like the Philadelphia Museum of Art, people come to see the strangest things, like the steps, the ones Rocky ran up in the movie. The steps are nice, but maybe next time we should go inside.
Bill Geist, CBS News, Philadelphia.
That's part of Philadelphia and part of our world. Later tonight on CBS 48 Hours, here's Aaron Moriarty with a preview.
How many wives should a man be allowed to have?
Polygamy is a crime. It's a felony.
It's a way of life these teenagers are trying to escape.
If they don't get out tonight, within 5 days, they could be married to total strangers.
Later on 48 Hours.
48 Hours, an investigation of polygamy tonight at 10/9 Central Time. For the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting. Thanks to all of the good people in Philadelphia and at CBS station KYW for making this a good reporting trip and a memorable visit. I'll see you later on 48 Hours.
For news 24 hours a day.